This is 1.7, my MathLab notes, and today we're going to be solving matrices. And our objectives for today are to find the value of an unknown variable in a matrix, and also to add and subtract matrices. And the problems I'm going to work for you today are like numbers 2, 3, and 7 on your homework. Here on number 2, we're going to find the values for the variables so that the following matrices are equal. What you need to understand about matrices is just think of them as like maybe a chart or a table. And so if we kind of divide this matrix into 4 sections, where this variable is x, it's equal to the very same position on the other matrix. So in this case, x is equal to 3. Then if we do the same thing for y, we've got 6y is equal to 12. So 6y is equal to 12. So that means 6 times some number is equal to 12, and that number would be 2, because 6 times 2 is 12. And then if we do z, it's in the left bottom corner of the first matrix, and 6 is in the left bottom corner of the second matrix, so that means z is equal to 6. So the next thing we want to do is add and subtract matrices. And again, just remember that you have to put these numbers in the same position. So the 6 is in the same position as 1. So we're going to do 6 plus 1, and that gives us 7. So 7 goes in the top left corner of the new matrix. And then we've got 3 plus 3, and that's in the top right corner, so 3 plus 3 is 6. And then we've got 7 plus 6, so that's 13. And then you have 8 plus 5, and that's also 13. Then we'll do the same thing with subtraction. Again, we're going to subtract the numbers that are in the same position. So 6 minus 1 is 5. 3 minus 3 is 0. 7 minus 6 is 1. Make sure you're putting the answers in the same position as the original numbers. And then 8 minus 5, bottom right corner, is 3. Okay, the final question we want to look at is number 7. And we're given 2 tables here, one of exports and one of imports of a country in 3 categories for the years 2000 and 2006. Now, exports are monies that are sent out of a country, and imports are monies that are brought into a country. So let's say this is the United States, and then in the year 2000 there was $47,498,000 that was exported out of the country in agriculture, and $65,746,000 that was imported, brought into the money in agriculture in the year 2000. So part A here says form the matrix A that contains the number of millions of dollars of exports. So we're going to look at the table that is exports, which is this first table here, and we're just going to form a matrix out of these numbers. So you can see there are 6 boxes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So $47,498,000 will go in this first box. $71,997 will go in the second box. And then you just keep filling those boxes in. Remember, the biggest thing in a matrix is to continue to put them in the same position. Part B, we're going to form the matrix that contains the millions of dollars of imports. So we're looking at the table that has imports in it, and we're just going to take those numbers and just form a matrix. Just fill them in their correct position in matrix B. So on part C here, it says to write the matrix, and the part C is going to be equal to matrix A minus matrix B, which gives the balance of trade for these product categories. So all we're going to do is take our matrix A that we wrote in part A and subtract the matrix B that we came up with in part B. So I've gone ahead and subtracted matrix A and matrix B, and I've drawn this out because I can't really fit these in those boxes, but when I subtract A minus B in the upper left-hand corner, I got negative 18,248. Now, what does this mean? That means that the agricultural exports in the year 2000 minus the agricultural imports in the year 2000 was a negative number. And negative is really bad when you're talking about exports and imports, because that means that we brought in more agricultural goods from other countries than we sent out. So we kind of lost money, if you want to think about it that way, as a country. And then in 2006, again, it was still negative, because 71,000 minus $83,075 turned out to be here negative $11,078. So we'll go on to part D and answer the question here. It says, in what categories and years does the country have a positive trade balance? Well, you can see right here, the only two places that there is a positive trade balance are in those two categories. So if we go back up and look at the matrices, that's in manufactured goods. In both 2000 and 2006, in manufactured goods, there was a positive trade balance. Okay, the final question we want to look at is number 7. And we're given two tables here. One of Part E says, in which category and years the trade deficit the greatest? Now, deficit is a negative number, because that means that we imported more things than we exported. So we're going to have to go back and look and see, when was that trade deficit the greatest. So the greatest trade deficit is here in this last column and last row, the bottom right-hand corner. And if we go back up and take a look, that is in mineral fuels. We had the greatest trade deficit in the year 2006, because we only sent out $33,103,000, and then we brought in $330,041,000. So the correct answer to part E is C. And then part F says, why is this trade deficit the greatest? And choose the correct answer below. And the reason it's the greatest is because that's the most negative entry in matrix C. So for your homework, just do 1 through 7 here on 1.7, my MathLab homework. I'm not going to require a journal today, because most of this can just be typed in your calculator, and there's a lot of numbers to write. So I'm not going to require a journal on this homework.